Okay, today we're going to use NetLogo to make an image of a national flag. A couple things we're going to end up doing with this is using the less than and greater than sign. Going to map out things on X and Y coordinate plane, and we're going to look at some colors and how they can be designated in different ways. So the first thing we're going to need to do is go to this NetLogo website. Again, if you have NetLogo downloaded on your computer, use that instead of the NetLogo web. So the site here, when you go to the netlogoweb.org, you'll have these two options. Again, if you're on a desktop and you've already downloaded this will be the better option to use. It ends up working faster. There's less steps to write a program, but since most of you have Chromebooks, I'm going to go ahead and use this NetLogo web right here. So I click on this and it will automatically load some random model for me. So it just randomly picks something and loads it, which we really don't want, but it lets you jump right into things. So again, when you clicked on there, yours probably a different model that loaded because it just randomly picks one of these to load in here. So what we're going to do is go up here where it says new in the top corner, and we're going to select new, and it says, are you sure we want to open a new model? We're going to say yes, and we'll start off with this blank model. Now when we're the main two things we're going to look at is this command code right here and running our model here. Now the downloaded version, you're not going to have to do this step. But for the web version of NetLogo, you're going to have to click and unclick this little lock here. And what that's doing is letting us, when we unclick it, we can add some things. Our interface is basically for editing. When we're unclicking it, when it's locked, it is for putting that's for us interacting with the model. Alright, so for the NetLogo models or code, what we're going to start off with is this basic setup. So with this new model, one of the things we can end up doing is adjusting our world. So I'm going to click on the lock here so it shows the unlocked icon. Again, if you are on the desktop model, you won't have to do that. You'll just go up to settings at the very top kind of center and click on there, and what this allows us to do is change our world, how it's set up. So what we're going to end up doing for a flag is most national flags are not square shaped like this is. So we're going to end up changing the dimensions of this area right here for a flag. So the first thing we need to do is figure out which flag we're going to use. So we're going to start off with national flags that are very basic, usually just 3 stripes, either 3 vertical stripes or 3 horizontal stripes, to make it fairly easy. So I'm just going to type in national flags, and you could type in world flags, countries of the flags, anything like that. And I'm going to pick this one, national flag of Italy. And again, we're going to pick something fairly simple. I don't want you doing something like the United States to start off with. We'll talk about that later. We're going to do something with 3 stripes. You can see there's a whole variety of national flags that have 3 stripes, and most of them, well, I should say most of them, I don't know, a lot of them are these horizontal stripes. You'll see national flags that are vertical stripes, but I'm going to go ahead and pick the national flag of Italy. And then I'm going to go to the Wikipedia site for it because it has the information we need. So whatever flag you end up using, and we'll talk about how you get to pick your flag later, but with the Wikipedia entry, the article here, it has the first thing we're going to look at over here is the proportions. So this proportion is 2 to 3. So for every 2 going this way, we have 3 this way. So that could be, you know, if you made it 2 inches this way, this would have to be 2 feet this way. It would be 3 feet this way. If you have a big giant flag of like 2 meters this way, then it would be 3 meters this way. So that ratio there is letting us know how to set up our little NetLogo world. So again, I'm using the Italian flag as an example. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my world so it's set up by a 2 by 3 rectangle instead of being the square. So I'm going to go back to NetLogo. I'm going to click on Edit, and here is one of the things we're going to end up doing. We're going to end up changing our minimum and maximum PX core. So I'm going to change my minimum to 0 and my minimum PY core, and this P stands for patch. So this is the minimum X value, and the reason I'm doing this is so that I have in the very corner 0, 0 is going to be my origin. Right now the origin set up to be in the center. Now then, if my maximum value for X, which is the long ways of my flag, was going to be 2 to 3, so I'm focused on the 3 part here. I'm just going to type in a 30, and then here my maximum PY core, I'm going to type in 20. And again, I could have done, just to make this so you can see why I'm doing this, if I do 2 by 3, that's our proportion. I'm going to click on OK, and you can see it's super tiny, so that's not very useful. So I'm going to click on Edit, and hopefully it's going to let me change this to a 20, and I'm not for sure why it's acting this kind of crazy way here. I'll click on OK. That's going to make it a little bit bigger. Edit, and I get to do my 30 there, and click on OK. So now I have something that more the shape of the size of the shape of the flag we need. Okay, we're going to start off with something pretty basic here. So we have our 20 by 30, and again that's a 2 to 3 ratio. So again, I could have done like 40 by 60 or whatever a multiple of. You guys have been doing ratios for the last 3 weeks, various ratios and proportions, and this is one of the projects we're using those for. So I have my 2 to 3 ratio set up for my flag. Now I'm going to go back here, and we can see that it's 3 different colors. I got the green, the white, and the red. And there's actually some very specific colors for this, which we'll talk about, but I'm just going to use the idea of green, white, and red for now, and we'll make this a little bit more specific later. Alright, so I'm going to go to my NetLogo code, and for you on the computers or laptops, you'll have a little code at the top left that says, a little tab that says code, and that's what you're going to select. So I'm going to start off with the word to here, T-O, and hopefully you can see that. So to T-O, setup, and I'm going to hit enter a couple times, and I'm going to type in the word end, E-N-D. So what to setup does, you can see that to is green and end is green. So this is a term that NetLogo recognizes. So to is the beginning of a procedure, and we're calling our procedure setup. We could have called our procedure macaroni or start or my favorite dog, whatever. But by tradition, we try to give procedures and variables and any of those kinds of things we use in computer programming a name that makes sense. And by tradition, we usually use setup in NetLogo. So our first thing we're going to do in our procedure, and again our procedure starts here, so to setup, and the computer knows that when we end, that's the end of the setup procedure. So I indented a couple spots, and I like doing it that way because it makes it easier to kind of see how your code goes. So the first thing we're going to do is clear dash all, and the dash is the little minus sign next to the 0 on your keyboard. So clear dash all. And the reason they do this is if we had a space in there for clear all, you can see it's two different words. So in NetLogo, when they have something that's two words and they want to kind of keep them together as for one word, we put a dash in there. So now it's all connected, and you can see it's bluish color, and that means that NetLogo recognizes what that term is. And what clear all does is it gets rid of all the background colors. If we have agents or other things in our little world up here, it will get rid of them. So that's what clear all does. Now then, I'm going to skip a couple lines. We don't have to, but I like making little blocks of code to make it easier for us to kind of follow along. So I'm going to use these little symbols, little semicolons. They're next to the letter L on your keyboard. So I use two of them, and what these are in program documentation. Some people call them user comments. There's a couple different words for them, but when we do this, it makes it blind for the computer to read. The computer doesn't read this, the program won't read it. It's just for people looking at the code. So you can write little notes and stuff like that in the code, so we can let people know what these different blocks of code we're doing. Or sometimes you put user comments after a line just to kind of give some explanation or some comments about what it does. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and do this / and I'm going to say set the background color to white. And the reason I'm doing this is I looked at my middle color and it was white, so I'm going to use that as my base color, and this will kind of make sense when I show you a couple other things. So my next thing is I'm going to say ask patches, and you see I went down a line. Ask patches. I'm going to use a square bracket. That's the starting square bracket. It's next to the letter P, and I'm going to hit enter a couple times, and I'm going to do a closing square bracket. Now I kind of look at this as the brackets are telling the ask patches exactly what we're doing. So we're asking all the patches to do this, and we're going to say set P color, which stands for patch color, to white. Alright, so another way of looking at this, I'm just going to kind of do this, and hopefully this will make sense, but here's another way of looking at this. We're asking our patches to do all the instructions inside this box. So here's the beginning of the box, here's the end of the box. Right now we're only asking it to do one thing. Sometimes we might ask something to do 20 things, like set their color this, set their size this, set their shape this. So if we put that all strung out, it's going to be a lot. So what I like doing is breaking up into individual lines with the brackets connected together in line like this. So I'm asking my patches to do everything from this bracket to this bracket, which at this point is only to do one thing. Set P color, and I put 2. I should take that out. So set P color white. Alright, so now to get this to work, I'm going to go up here, and if you're on the desktop version, you would just go to the interface tab and it would bring you to this, and then you can right click and it says create button. So I'm going to do that, and it will put a button right here, and the command I'm going to say is set up, and it's got to be spelled exactly the way you have it down in your code. So I'm going to click on OK, and this will load it, and I'm going to move this over just a little bit and then click off. And now then I'm going to go ahead and lock this back, because right now when I click on the button it does this little highlight thing and I can drag it around. If you're on the desktop model, you click it and it will do setup. You got to right click it to get this little highlight thing so you can drag it around. I'm going to click off of it, and I'm going to go up here and lock this back, and now that's activated this. So when I click on setup, it says, I don't know what this means. Oh yes, I do. You've told me in this code right here what it means. Setup means clear all, ask the patches to set their color to white. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to do setup, and you see it turns white. Okay, so here I have my code. Again, when I finish writing, when I add something to it, I got to hit this recompile. So I have, again, a review, clear all. That clears everything back. Then the next thing we're going to do is we have this ask patches to set the color to white. So I'm going to hit compile, recompile code. And again, if you're on the desktop version, you don't need to do that. So when I hit setup up here, it is making all our patches white. So now what I'm going to do is I want to make our green patch. And again, I'm going to look back at the flag here, and from this third right here, I want to be green. So our patch value right now goes from 0 to 30. So I want from 0 to up to 10 to be green. And what am I? So if I say ask patches, and this will make sense in a second here. So ask patches. Since I'm asking the patches to do something, I have to have a start and an end to the list of things I'm asking them to do. And again, I'm going to indent here. I'm going to say set P color green. Now the issue with this is what's going to happen is going to turn everything white, and then it's going to turn everything green. And I hit recompile here, so it added this code I just added. Again, if you're on the desktop, you don't need to do that. Just go back to the interface and hit your setup button, and you see that's what it did. It made everything, when we did clear all, it made everything back to black, then we set it to white, and then it set it to green, and it does it really fast. So since we're on the computer here, the browser, it does it instantaneously. If you're doing it on the desktop and you slide this down, it will do it slow enough that you can see it. So we only want this first third to be green. So we're going to have to add this conditional. So we're going to ask this question, if, I'm going to start parentheses, I'm going to say px core is less than 10, so that goes from, that counts as 0 all the way up to 9, then we're going to set our patch color to green. And you'll notice I'm going to end up having a starting bracket there. I'm going to go to the end of the green, hit enter there, do an ending bracket there. So I'm asking my patches if their py coordinate, their y coordinate is less than 10, I'm going to set the color to green. And if we go up here and think about this, this right here is 0, 0. So any of the x values all the way from 0 to 10, not including 10, up to 10 but not including 10, if that's true, if that's what that x and y coordinate equals, with this x coordinate being less than 10, it's going to turn it green. So if I looked at like a patch right here, this might be patch, the x and y coordinate might be, I'm just going to make a guess, like let's say 5, comma 20. I can't remember how high I went up now. Oh yeah, just the 20. So this might be 5, comma 5. So the 5 is less than 10, so it would be true. So all these right here, because their x coordinate, that first value, and their x and y is less than 10. So I'm going to go ahead and add my code here, hit recompile, and we see that turned this first third into green. Now then, it would seem to be true for the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and add a user comment in here, and it's going to say set left side, I'm going to say left 1/3 of flag green. So one of the things I'm going to do is I want to make this other side red, like right here. So this back third here has to be red. So if this was from 0 to 30, then we're going to say if it is greater than 20, we're going to make it red. And one of the things about computer programming is copying and pasting. So I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to right click, I'm going to say copy, come down here, hit enter a couple of times, paste, and I'm going to change my little comments here. I'm going to say set right, right 1/3 of flag red, and we're going to say if it is, we're going to switch our sign to greater than 20. We're going to end up making our patch color red. So I'm going to, after I've got all that in, I'm going to go up here, recompile, and I'm going to go up here and hit setup, and we have our flag, and you can see that the white looks a little whiter. And here is the deal with that. What we're going to do is we're going to add an equal sign here. So this says if it's less than or equal to 10 or greater than or equal to 20, it's going to include those, and you'll see it just changed ever so slightly when we run this again. Now this looks a little too narrow, and we're going to end up talking about this issue here a little bit later, but we can change our values here. We can say if this one is from 0 to 10, and then we can leave that other one the way it is. And I'm going to end up talking about this whole thing with numbers and how these patches work later. But you can see that's about right. Now there's some other things we can do to make this work, but one of the issues is from 0, this starts off at 0 instead of numbering at 1. So we got 0 to 9, and then so those are colored, and then from 10 to 19 is colored, and then from 20 to 30 is colored here. So that looks approximately right. Now then, I'm going to end up having this code here for you to use as an example. But here's the deal: you guys are going to have to pick out your own flag and tell me what it is. Each person has to do a different country, so it's going to be kind of first come first serve. So you're going to email me what you want to do, which color flag, and go from there. Now we can look at something like this German flag right here, this flag of Germany, and our stripes are the other way. So I'm just going to go back to our model. I'm going to show you something about this. So if I change the PX core to PY core, and this one to the PY core, this would almost work, but I'm going to end up changing these values because remember this goes from 0 to 20 up here. So I'm going to break that up a little bit. I'm just going to pick out the number 8 here, and then I'm going to say 12 here, and I'm going to compile. Oops, and I think I forgot to change. No, I got that as a PY core and a PY core, so we're looking at going across now, and we can see that that ends up making the stripes run the other way. So if you have a flag like that, you got to figure that out. So PX core, change this back to PX core. This here is a 10. This here is a 20. And I'm going to make sure it recognizes that code and flip our stripes back the other way. Now then, again, I said we can make this even more precise. This is not, when we look at the color of this and this is not the same colors here. So what we can do is we can look at these colors, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the Wikipedia site. And the Wikipedia does a pretty good job of uses light to produce the color, and this is the percentage of red, green, and blue that it needs to mix. So RGB, red, green, blue. Alright, so for our green we need 0, and this goes from 0 to 255. That's the values that each range goes. 0 being none, and then 255 being max. So to produce a screen we need to have these three values, 0, 140, and 69. So I'm going to go back to my model, and for my green, 0, let's say, and I got to put this in brackets for this. I'm going to say 0, 140, 140, and 69. I'm going to add that to the code by hitting this compile code, and we'll see our green is a little bit different now, and it matches this flag better now. It's not going to be it's pretty close as we're going to be able to get it. Alright, and you can see our white is actually not 100% white. It's this bright white, so I'm going to select those values. I'm going to go back to my code, and where it says white here, I'm using my friend copy and paste. So Control V is paste, Control C is copy. So I'm going to use a square bracket. Got to get rid of my comma here because in this program it just separates things automatically with a space. So that's going to be my color for white, and then my red is these values right here. Flame scarlet, that's what it says this color red is. So instead of being red, I've got to change my to a bracket, and you can see here I have no space on each side of my bracket. Here I have a space. It's not super important, it's just how you prefer it to look. So now I'm going to add this code, and now when I go to hit setup, it's going to do my three things. It's going to four things. It's going to clear everything. That's the first thing. It's going to set all the patches to this specific shade of white. Then it's going to set the left side patches to this specific shade of green, and then it's going to set these patches, this last third, to this color red. So I hit setup, and now we can see it looks closer to this shade. So, and that's the more exact way of doing it. So I'm going to end up having this video available for you to use, and if you have questions, you let me know. Again, this is one of the choices for the assignment. Now if you're up for a challenge, you could pick a flag that is more difficult, but I don't want you going super crazy. There's ways of doing these diagonal lines. We can add a little shape or a symbol in the center of it. There's some things we can do if you're interested in doing those, like the flag of Japan. That's a easy one to do. The South Korea, that'd be a little harder. The ones that have these details with a lot of pictures and stuff like that, they're a little bit harder to do, so I want you to stay away from those. Flag of Indonesia is pretty easy. I like the flag of Belarus. One of the ones that's kind of not a super hard challenge, but kind of fun to do, is the United Arab Emirates. I don't see it popping up here yet, but it has 3 vertical stripes, and it has like a horizontal stripe on the edge. Alright, so that is your assignment for using NetLogo. And again, we're using these less than and greater than signs, and hopefully you will be able to do this fairly easily. And again, you have to pick your own, so you have to email me the a request for getting a certain flag, and I will say yes or no. I will most likely, if somebody already has it, I'll say no. Or if I think it's going to be way too difficult, I'll say no, unless you're really wanting to try it. Okay. So again, if you have questions about this, let me know. Send me an email, ask me in class, show up to tutoring, and I can help you with it.